Everyone. My name is Dr. Heather Kirk-Ballard, and I'm the Consumer Horticulture Extension Specialist for the LSU Ag Center. And today I'm going to give a talk about our new and upcoming plants, our 2021 Louisiana Super Plant Selections. So without further ado, what is the Louisiana Super Plants Program? Well, this is a plant promotion campaign that was requested by the Louisiana Nursery and Landscape Association and developed by the LSU Ag Center. The program features beautiful and reliable plants with proven statewide performance, so in the North and in the South and Central Louisiana, through evaluated trials. So it's promoted through the LSU Ag Center as part of their mass media program. I'm the host of the Get It Growing program, and that is how we promote these plants. The program was built to identify superior plants with proven performance in Louisiana landscapes. They include bedding plants. They can be perennial or annual. We usually have a cool season selection and a warm season selection. In addition, we have shrubs. We also have grasses, and we recommend trees as well. And it's to encourage local nurseries and garden centers to carry these Louisiana super plant selections. And we want to get the word out to the gardening public and professionals. So these selections are announced every spring and every fall. And the slogan of the program is university tested and industry approved. So all of our ornamental trials are carried out at the Hammond Research Station. There are also trials throughout at other locations throughout the state so that we can test these plants. And typically when it's a bedding plant, we'll evaluate it for a couple of years. If it's a tree, it's a little bit longer. If it's a shrub, it's a little bit longer. But we'll invite folks out to the research station once a year to help us evaluate these, and they get to vote on which ones they think look the best. But the research staff also collects data throughout those years on their growth, their quality, and what have you. And so they want to look at disease resistance and resistance to insects and pests, and just their superior qualities. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to meet to be a Louisiana super plant. So we make these recommendations so that when homeowners take these plants home, they know that they're going to get a good, low maintenance, easy care plant that just does really well in the landscape. So without further ado, let's move on to the 2021 Louisiana Super Plant Selections. Our warm season bedding plant for the spring is the Impatiens Beacon series. Muhly grass is our fall selection. It's a native grass, and we'll go into more descriptions in the next slides. Sun-credible yellow sunflower is just a wonderful performer. It is a great bedding plant for the summertime. And then we have the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo, which is a bedding plant for the fall. You can find them in the spring, but you're going to be more likely to find them in the fall. So our first selection is a warm season bedding plant, and it's called Beacon Series Impatiens. And their bloom season is summer, spring, and late summer. Once it starts getting pretty hot, if these are out in the full sun, they don't perform as well, but they do great in the springtime. If you have them in more of a shaded area, you might get a longer season out of them through the fall. But they have a mounded upright form, and they make an excellent border plant and in mass plantings. As you can see in this picture here, the bottom right corner is actually some of our trial beds at the Hammond Research Station. And you can see that they come in colors of orange, white, purple, and red. And they get up to about a height of 14 to 18 inches, and they spread about a foot, okay? And these guys are just great for the shade. So you don't have to be envious anymore of your neighbors that have that full sun and all that beautiful color. We actually have some great selections as part of the Louisiana Super Plant Program that perform well in the shade. And the Beacon series Impatiens is one of those. Now, in the past, Impatiens have suffered from what is called Impatiens downy mildew. And so this is a fungal disease that would cause the plants to just kind of wilt and turn to mush. But the Beacon Impatiens series is actually has a good resistance to it. So good plant for a shaded area for the spring, fall. It can last through the summer if you've got it in the right place. Beautiful pop of color for the shade. Next is our sunflower. This one's a Helianthus hybrid, sun credible yellow sunflower. And this one is great for the late spring all the way into the fall. It's has an upright habit. It's kind of bush-like, and it's perfect for the back of the bed, back of your garden beds, because it's going to get some height on it. It gets about 2 to 3 feet in height, and it'll spread about 20 to 32 inches. And this one takes full sun. It doesn't require any deadheading. It has great disease resistance. It is ever blooming, and it's a great cut flower, and those pollinators just love it. The butterflies and the bees just love it. Just look how pretty these are. These are, you know, smaller sunflower heads, but it just gives you a burst of yellow color and some height for your bedding, your garden beds in the summertime. Next, we have a native grass, muhly grass, which is one of our native plant selections that we're very proud of. This one is just gorgeous. It typically comes with the pink inflorescence or the pink flowers. Sometimes you can find a white color. This one blooms in the late summer and into the fall. So this is going to be one of our fall selections. It's an upright perennial, and it gets about 18 to 36 inches, and it spreads about 30 inches. This just adds some nice texture to landscape beds, and it is just gorgeous. Those wispy purplish red inflorescence on that silky panicle. They get about 18 inches in height. Those tidy clumps of fine blue-green foliage. It's easy to grow. It's a native ornamental grass. It's very tolerant of a wide variety of soil conditions. It could be drought, and it can also take wet conditions. And it's very heat tolerant. You know, those native plants perform so well because they're native and they're adapted to our climates. So muhly grass is one of our native grass plant selections that you can plant now this spring and enjoy those beautiful fluorescence or those grass panicles in the fall. Just gorgeous. And lastly, our cool season bedding plant selection for 2021 is the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo. It is available now this spring in garden centers. We know that petunias typically don't hold up to heat very well, but these mini vistas do a whole lot better in the heat, especially if you have it in a partially shaded area. So some of these will last from spring all the way to fall, but they'll be available again in the fall for those beds. This has a mounding trailing growth habit, so it's great as a spiller plant or a border plant and a ground cover. It takes sun to partial shade. You can use it in hanging baskets or in combination planters, again, as the spiller option. And it tolerates the heat better than other petunias. You might be aware of the bubblegum. This is a relative of that. It's just a great performer as far as petunias go, and it just grows and grows and grows. And if it gets out of control, you can cut it back about a third. It'll bush right back out. Petunias can be a bit of a heavy feeder, so if they're in containers, you want to liquid fertilize them, you know, every couple of weeks. If you have them in the garden beds, use a slow release fertilizer. But these guys, again, tolerate the heat much better than other petunias, and they attract butterflies and hummingbirds. And just look at that gorgeous blue purple flower that we have going on here. Just would be a great companion to that bubblegum petunia. Our 2020 Louisiana super plant selections were bald cypress, American beautyberry, so 2 more native plants, and then our flamethrower coleus and the lucky star pentas. The bald cypress, of course, is native to the Southeast United States. It's a deciduous conifer. It's slow growing and long lived. You can see in this top right picture, it does great at stabilizing, areas around ponds. Those cypress knees can be a problem. And whenever you're considering planting a bald cypress, you always want to consider those cypress knees, especially when you're thinking of your neighbors. You can't predict where these guys will pop up. And they do add some beauty, but they also add some headache to some people. They get about 50 to 70 feet in height, and their spread is about 20 to 45 feet. They've got that beautiful conical shape. And in the fall, we get some of that beautiful fall foliage change. That kind of rust colored needles are just gorgeous. They attract birds. The fruit is very showy, and they tolerate, that clay, wet soil, and air pollution. And the deers don't seem to like them too much. You can use them in rain gardens to help absorb water, and they grow well in full sun to partial shade, and they're just a beautiful tree. They're actually a great wildlife habitat for the wild turkey, ducks, water birds, and squirrels. They are wildlife habitat for bald eagles, toads, and frogs, and salamanders. And of course, their timber is valued for their rot-resistant heartwood of those mature woods or the mature trees. And they're used for doors and flooring, cabinetry, and boats. And they're also very important to wetland stability here in Louisiana. They soak up floodwaters, and they prevent erosion and trap pollutants. All right. Our next 2020 Louisiana superplant selection is the American beautyberry, Calicarpa americana. It is a native deciduous shrub. You're going to see more and more natives being incorporated into the Louisiana superplant program. Not because we don't love all those designer, well-bred cultivars, but we know that natives help support wildlife. They're adapted to our climates, they perform well. So we want to include a great mixture of our natives and our more showy bred cultivars. But this is a native deciduous shrub. It gets about 6 to 8 feet in height by 6 feet wide. It grows best in partial shade. It can tolerate full sun. But again, it grows best as an understory tree, as you can see in these pictures here on LSU's campus. They have the beautyberries here planted underneath the live oak trees, and they just do really well. They have a very small, inconspicuous, light pink purple flower in the summertime around June to July, which will make fruit in the fall. And that's what makes it so gorgeous. It produces that beautiful purple berry, and that's why it's called beautyberry. Now, it's a native species, so it has ecosystem services. The berries in late summer to early fall, it supports several wildlife species, several birds. There were some traditional uses of this plant. The leaves and branches and roots were used to treat malaria and rheumatism by the Native Americans and early settlers. The roots were used to treat dizziness, stomach aches, and dysentery, and a combination of roots and berries were boiled in a tea to treat colic. And today it's being studied to treat inflammation, rheumatism, gastrointestinal bleeding, and diabetes. So not only is this plant gorgeous and makes these beautiful berries that are good looking in the fall, and the birds just love them, they also have, some traditional medicinal uses. All right, next we have our flamethrower coleus and the Lucky Star pentas. So those were our warm season selections for 2020. The flamethrower coleus comes in several different colors. They have a lot of burgundies and limes and reds, and they're just great for their foliage. Their foliage interest, we don't want coleus to flower. Typically, we pinch coleus back when they begin to flower, but they have these kind of strappy, irregular leaves that just add a pop of color to your landscape, and these tolerate full sun, and they can grow up to about 2 foot. So make sure you give them enough room, but they make a great color if you use them in mass, a a great splash of all these limes, reds, and burgundies. Then we have our Lucky Star Pentas. These are another great spring, summer, all the way to fall. When you plant these guys, they're going to continue to bloom up until the first frost. And they come in colors of reds and pinks and whites. And of course, pentas are just wonderful for attracting pollinators, right? The butterflies and bees just love it. So Lucky Star pentas, they'll only get about a foot or two. If you want them to continue to bloom, you can just pinch those, faded heads off, and they're going to be a great performer for you. Both flamethrower coleus and Lucky Star pentas do best in full sun. All right, now we're just going to move through the next, the most recent Louisiana super plants. For 2019, lemon sedum. Sedums have just really taken off in the market just because they're very reliable plants. They're easy to propagate. This lemon sedum actually has a very tiny, small yellow flower, but it's not grown for its flower. It's grown for its foliage. The bees do love it when it flowers, and it typically flowers in the springtime, but this will perform. It is just you're going to put it in the springtime. It's going to spread. It's an excellent ground cover. It makes a beautiful border plant. That lime green foliage is just what is so attractive about this plant. And it will actually tolerate some pretty hard freezes, because mine has made it through the past 2 years. And, we had that hard freeze here recently in February, and mine's looking just fine. Now it'll get a little bit overgrown, but you can trim it back. And again, this one propagates so easily. You can literally pick up pieces of it and just spread it out, and it'll reseed itself. So lemon sedum, or it's also known as lemon ball sedum, great performer. Lime sizzler firebush is definitely a tropical plant for the summertime, but again, you see that lime foliage with the red, orange flowers. The hummingbirds just love this plant, and it's a shrub, so it's going to get several feet tall by several feet wide, and it will freeze back in the wintertime, but it is root hardy and will come back from its roots every year. And this is just another, eye catcher, beautiful shrub, especially if you love pollinators, one to grab. And then our Jolt series dianthus. The Jolt series is best for the fall. Our dianthus typically grows in cooler weather, so you want to find it in the fall. It'll grow well through fall, winter, into the spring before it starts getting too hot. But they have these beautiful bouquets of dianthus, or these beautiful bouquets of flowers that can be used as cut flowers. Comes in pinks and whites, dark cherries. They are just an excellent performer for your fall gardens. So here's just some more pictures of the lemon sedum. It's called lemon ball or lemon coral. It's very easy care. It blooms from spring to fall. It's an annual. If it freezes, however, mine is perennial. Like I said, it's been in the landscape for a couple of years, and it's just fine. There's no deadheading necessary, and this guy can take the heat like no other. Heat and drought, no problem. Here again is that lime sizzler. It's a semi-woody perennial. It's got that green-yellow chartreuse with the orange-red flowers. It's compact mounding. It does best in full to partial sun. And it's a great focal point in a mass planting, and it's wonderful for hummingbirds. You can also grow it in containers as well. And then here again is that Jolt dianthus. We got the Jolt pink magic at the top and the Jolt cherry at the bottom. Just gorgeous. And again, these are great for cut flowers. 2018, the Intense Classic Celosia, Little Gem Magnolia, and Limelight Hydrangea. Just some great selections for year-round planting. This Intense Classic Celosia is a full sun, warm season bedding plant. It has those interesting flower heads. It's very attractive foliage in the summer through the fall. It's got abundant, long-lasting flowers, and it attracts the bees and butterflies, and it's excellent in both beds and containers. So this Intense Classic Celosia is just another super plant that's just a winner for the summertime. Limelight hydrangeas. These are the paniculata hydrangeas. That means that they can take full sun, and their head is, more conical in shape, or the flower head is more conical in shape. It is just gorgeous. It creates a great visual impact in the landscape, especially in mass plantings. It gets about 6 to 8 feet tall with an equal spread. It prefers partial sun, but again, can tolerate full sun. It'll bloom in it blooms in the early summer. You want to plant it now from March to May. There are no major pest problems. It prefers a well-drained raised bed, and it's a higher water use than other hydrangeas. So you want to make sure you have a good water source. And the best time to prune hydrangeas is always after they've completed their bloom, okay? Little Gem Magnolia, many of you know these. This is a wonderful foundation planting, a smaller tree for near the house. It's a dwarf cultivar of the native southern magnolia. You can plant it late fall through winter. Spring is also a good time. It fits in spaces too small for a standard magnolia. It's got that dark green foliage with that rusty brown underside. It blooms in May and continues into early fall. And it's got those large, white, fragrant flowers that just attracts the bees like no other. The 2017 Louisiana Super Plant selections are Henry's Garnet Virginia Willow, Sun Patience, and the Vista Supertunia Bubblegum. Now remember, our 2021 Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo. This is, again, like I said, that cousin, just another one of those gorgeous blooming petunias. The Henry's Garnet Virginia Willow is a great Louisiana native shrub. You want to plant it in fall or in through the spring. It grows about 4 to 5 feet in height with an equal spread, and it gets that 4 to 6 inch white flower panicle early to mid-spring. So right now, after we've gotten that flush of leaves, we're starting to see those beautiful flower panicles, and they flower for about 4 to 6 weeks. It's great for woodland gardens, filtered sun or shaded area. So this would be good for kind of, an understory plant like that American beautyberry. In the fall, it has a great foliage change, that garnet, crimson, maroon fall foliage color. It is deciduous, and it doesn't have very many major disease issues, although I have seen some leaf spot on it. Sun Patience Hybrid Impatiens. These are a great hybrid impatient. You can use them in full sun in the landscape. Plant them in mid-spring, early April to May. Right now is perfect. You want a well-drained area. They prefer the pine straw mulch, a little acidic, you want to space them about 15 to 18 inches apart. They grow about 18 to 24 inches wide and in height. They're colorful flowers with a continuous spring bloom until the first frost. And they're compact varieties of about 15 different colors. So they're very tropical and very vibrant. There are no major pests or no major diseases or insect pests. And then we've got, oh my goodness, look at this. This Vista Supertunia Bubblegum Petunia. Say that twice fast. I can't even spit anything out right now that I've said it. It is one of the most durable landscape petunias. You want to plant it in late winter to early spring. You can also plant it again in the fall. You want to space it about 18 inches apart. It can tolerate full sun to partial sun. It grows about 2 to 3 foot wide. So if you have an area that you just want to cover, this is the plant. Such a good ground cover. It makes a great hanging basket. It's got that spiller quality, right? So it's a trailing habit. It prefers well-drained beds with an acidic soil. You can deadhead it lightly. It has improved heat and cold tolerance compared to other petunias. And again, it works well in baskets and containers. Just be ready for a vigorous growth with this one. Here are just some more of our list of the warm season flowers. I'm not going to go into great detail. You can always go to the LSU Ag Center site and visit our Louisiana Super Plants page to see all the lists of all the different types of super plants that we've recommended. This program started 11 years ago, so every year we add 3 to 4 plants to the list, and so it's going to keep growing, and we're going to keep adding all these wonderful selections. You can find something for year-round interest, for specifically for fall interest, for spring and summer. There's just many plants that you can pick from. But for the warm season plants, we'll go through these real quick. First, we have the Evolution Salvias. There's a white and a violet. Another great pollinator plant. It is a perennial that will come back year after year. It's got that green, delicate foliage with those beautiful white flowers or the beautiful purple flowers. Just a great performer for as a bedding plant. Next, we have the Cinerita raspberry. These are Angelonia. These Angelonias are just gorgeous. So we have the Serena series, the top left, and then we have the Serenita raspberry, bottom right. And they're called summer snapdragons. You know, they have that kind of shape of a snapdragon, just gorgeous. Flowers are produced through the summer on compact plants. They don't require deadheading. There's no major insects or disease problems. And you can see what an impact they make when you plant them in large mass plantings like the one you see here. Just gorgeous, profuse flowers. Next, we have the baby wing begonias. These are great for shaded areas. Just that dark glossy green foliage and those white flowers, just a wonderful addition to the landscape. We have the bandana lantanas, perfect for pollinators. These will come back year after year. They'll freeze back, but they are perennial, and they cover large parts, large areas, and they come in several different colors. So bandana lantanas are just a great selection, especially if you want something that's a profuse bloomer that attracts pollinators. Butterfly pentas, we talked about these. Again, just another great pollinator plant. Beautiful dark foliage. It is a perennial. It'll come back year after year. It does die back in the wintertime, but it will bloom nonstop from spring till the first frost. And these come in reds and whites and pinks, just great selections for your pollinator gardens. Little Ruby alternanthera, easy for me to say. This is just a great foliage interest, okay? So it's got that dark burgundy foliage. It's not grown for flowers. If you want to add that red burgundy to your landscape, try Little Ruby. Here is the Senorita Rosalita Cleone, another fun one to say. The pollinators just love this one. It's got those interesting green leaves and the beautiful purple flowers. These do great. Plant them in the spring. They will flower throughout the summer into the fall, and just another great selection. If you want some height in your garden, try the Senorita Rosalita Cleone, because it gets pretty tall, as you can see here in this picture. Here's just another photo of it close up. It's kind of that compound leaf, those interesting purple flowers. It's just a great selection. Here's another picture of the Serena. This should be Serena, not Serena, Serena Angelonia. My mistake. Just those beautiful purple flowers on that dark glossy green foliage. The Luna hibiscus is another native plant, a great pollinator plant, shrub, comes back year after year, has those large plate-sized hibiscus flowers, just gorgeous for those pinks and reds. They also have white It's a hardy hibiscus, or it's also known as the swamp rose mallow. It's an herbaceous perennial, and it gets about 2 to 3 feet in height. It blooms from July to September. Um, it grows best in full sun, and of course, it's great for those butterflies, right? You can use it in a rain garden. It's very deer tolerant, and it can also stand up. I mean, it's called swamp rose mallow, right? So it can tolerate those areas in your yard that has poor drainage or that, stays wet. Just some more pictures of this rose mallow. Then the Kauai Torinias, these are another great bedding selection. Their warm season bedding selection that's does well in shaded areas. So again, don't be envious of those folks that get all this full sun and have all this beautiful color. There are several selections: the baby wing begonias, the Kauai Torinias, and the impatiens that will give you a pop of color in your landscape. And this one's, kind of a low mounding growth with those beautiful tubular flowers that come in purples, blues, and whites. Great for shaded areas. Henna coleus, like the flame-thrower coleus, again, is grown for its interesting foliage. It's got that lime green and burgundy. Again, that's kind of the theme with these coleus that have been selected. Burgundies and lime greens just stick out. They get about 2 to 3 foot in height. So if you need an area that needs some height in it, some bursts of color, this looks great as a mass planting, as you see here. Again, not grown for its flowers, just for its foliage, is a wonderful selection for your landscape beds. Fireworks fountain grass. This one will bloom like all of our ornamental grasses in the fall. So you'll get those beautiful, plumes of flowers. These have those burgundy colors again that are just gorgeous. And this one obviously gets some height on it. So you're going to want to put it towards the back of the bed. It will die back in the wintertime, but come back every spring. And it's just a great performer. Flutterby Petite Tutti Frutti Pink Butterfly Bush. This is a buddleia. So of course, this is going to attract butterflies and bees. Just gorgeous. All these beautiful flowers. If you want it to continue flowering, it's best to deadhead these, although they say you don't have to. You're just going to get an improved bloom if you do deadhead these. Now, these are a shrub. They'll get several feet in height and width, but they are just a great selection, especially for pollinator beds. And then we have our flowering shrubs. If you're looking for a selection to replace Indian hawthorns because they get that leaf spot, a lot of them got a lot of damage after this hard freeze. This Mrs. Schiller's Delight Viburnum is also a native plant. It's an evergreen shrub. It blooms in early spring with these beautiful white flowers. It's very low maintenance. Use it as a replacement for Indian hawthorn. It will tolerate poor soils. It's one tough plant. You can plant it in full sun, partial shade, just a great performer. And it gets about 2 to 3 feet in height. So it's a good replacement for that Indian hawthorn. Aphrodite Althea, this beautiful bloom on this traditional plant, can get several feet in height, can be more of a tree form, but it is technically a shrub. Dies back in the winter, comes back every spring, just these beautiful flowers. Belinda's Dream Rose is said to be more tolerant of black spot and mildew that is common on roses. Beautiful pink flower, just a great performer. Conversation piece azaleas. The azaleas just put on a show this year. These ones are just great. Got those pink and white colors. A great performer as far as an azalea goes. So this is a great landscape shrub for around the house as a foundation planting. These drift roses are excellent selections as well. These are more dwarf roses. They are more resistant to the black spot powdery mildew that roses are susceptible to. They come in 7 different varieties, from white to pink to orange, just about any color that you want. Great selection as a foundation shrub for around the house. Frostproof gardenia. You can't be in the South without having one of these beautiful fragrant white flowers, this evergreen foliage. It's dwarf. Just another great selection as far as foundation plantings for around the house. Shishigashira camellia is one of the dwarf camellias that has this beautiful hot pink flower. It gets about 2 to 3 foot in height, sometimes grows taller depending on the area. These will tolerate full sun, perform well in partially shaded areas, and they like a well-drained acidic soil. Just another great evergreen shrub, good performer, great foundation plant for around the house. Then we have the Leslie-Ann camellia. These are a little bit taller, have those beautiful white and pink petals, evergreen shrub, again, partial shade, well-drained acidic soil. These will perform year after year. The Pennymac garden hydrangea, now depending on the soil, can be blue or pink, you know. If it's acidic, it's going to be blue. If it's alkaline, it's going to be pink. These do well in shaded areas. They get about 3 to 4 feet in height, and they bloom late spring to early summer. And they're just a great, great performer, a beautiful hydrangea. Rabbit eye blueberries is a fruit selection that we have as a Louisiana super plant. You want to make sure that if you're growing blueberries for their fruit, obviously, you want to have more than one variety. We carry the varieties of the rabbit eyes are Brightwell, Tip Blue, Climax, and Premier. So if you are growing blueberries, you want to make sure that you have at least 2 different types to have good cross-pollination. And blueberries can actually be used as a landscape plant. They produce fruit, obviously. And in the fall, they have an excellent fall foliage change, just one of our best, you know, and they can get up to 6 feet in height. These can be pruned, but they are a deciduous shrub that's just a wonderful performer. It's native to Louisiana and produces fruit, so it's a great selection. Our trees, we have the willow oak, southern sugar maple, evergreen sweet bay magnolia, and Shoal Creek vitex. The willow oak is another native. It's a great shade tree, street tree, and rain garden tree. There's no maintenance, you know, maybe you need to limb them up every now and then or take care of some dead limbs. But for the most part, these guys, once they're established, are very tolerant of drought. They can tolerate standing in water. They're just great performers. They've got these, you know, very narrow leaves. They're called the willow oak. It's medium to large deciduous oak tree. They're in the red oak group that is noted for its oak shape. They have willow-like leaves and they grow relatively fast. So if you're looking for a shade tree, this would be a good selection. Southern sugar maple, the Acer barbatum, is a medium-sized tree. It provides gorgeous fall color. This maple is an underused native tree. And just look at that fall foliage. Isn't it just gorgeous? So it's a deciduous native tree, full sun to partial shade. It'll get about 30 to 40 foot in height. You want to plant it, you know, when it's cooler and it's adapted to a wide variety of soils. Just look at those beautiful leaves as they change in the fall. Great performer. Evergreen sweet bay magnolia is a wonderful, wonderful foundation plant. It's got the silver underside, so it's just gorgeous. When the wind's blowing, you catch that silver color. It's got the tiny, tiny magnolias, but this is another native tree that can tolerate our clay, poorly drained soils, and is just a great performer. It does have that showy red fruit. It, again, tolerates clay soils, wet soil, and air pollution. It's very low maintenance. And it'll tolerate full to part sun, and it grows about 10 to 35 feet. So a smaller tree that you can use around the house. And then if you're looking for a summer blooming tree, something other than a crepe myrtle, Shoal Creek vitex or the chase tree is an excellent tree for your use around the house. Another foundation planting, doesn't get too tall, maybe 15 to 20 feet. It is deciduous. It drops its leaves in the fall, but it comes back every spring, and it just has these beautiful purple flowers that the pollinators just love. And so with that, thanks for your time. If you want any more information on the Louisiana Super Plants program, go to www.lsuagcenter.com/superplants. for a complete list of all of our super plants. If you want to see the Hammond Research Station and their trials, they post their data and plenty of pictures. Feel free to visit their website. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.